Yeah, we will. Sorry about this.
Andrea, can you hear?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Awesome, that's all I needed you to do. Hi, Rita. Can you hear? Rita,
Yeah, that way.
Yes.
can you hear?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you very well. You're very distant. I mean, it'd be great if you could be brought up a little closer.
We're gonna have it all turned up. Thank you for your patience. It's good to see everyone. I would like to, it is 6:03, it is February 1st. I would like to call the special meeting of the Board of Education to order. We will go until 7, and then we will party with our next meeting. And so, and there you are. And just to let people know, I think we are going to actually be through with the book tonight. If we can get to all of them, and then wow. And then the work of the board will be to take a look at percentages and what we want to see continue to be in the budget, and to get some directions to Superintendent Austin and her staff. So I am going to now have Ken lead us into our next part.
Going to page 5-76.
Please say, close. That'd be fun.
5-76 is teaching learning. So 5-76 shows the activity of teaching learning. We have the data management position. We also have grades 6 through 12 curriculum coordinators. There are 3 half-time teachers. So 3 times 0.5, so it's 1.5 FTE here, and 1 clerical. We go down to the expenses. The for salaries, we have a overall 3% increase. 6 through 12 coordinators are per union contract. Other positions are employee benefits up 3.1%. Change to other purchase services, which is travel. Under supplies, professional materials is up $4,000. This is the cost for books and other professional materials by the teacher. And then finally, under dues, 1,500, no change from prior year budget. And just, dues are CLC, which is Library Consortium, ASCD.
Association Supervision Curriculum Development.
Thank you. Total for this function is $392,478. Proposing a
I'm going to recognize Liz and then Rita and then Beverly. Good question, great. Okay. You can hear me from here, but can you guys hear me? Do this.
Yes.
Let's do that. Okay. Are the curriculum coordinators, are they paying completely 100% their salary and pay the admin, or is they have like a portion of admin or?
They're half and half, so they're basically, I think it's pretty split because they do some administrative work. So they're basically a day that they teach and a day that they do their education as an administrator. They're under the admin department.
So in trying to understand are these curriculum coordinators, there's 3 of them.
Humanities, ELA.
This in this part right here, the budget, which is 181,586 for FY 24. That just shows their administrative part of their job.
Sure.
And
Correct.
then in the regular teacher salary, it shows the other part of their job. Okay,
You'll see a
so,
point.
do you think that needs to be clarified someplace, please? Because I can't really need to make sure that we're very clear about where they're.
For me,
That would be great. And just a quick question for you. Ken, you said that this was. I don't remember how you started the whole conversation, but I was looking for support services, central office and learning.
Yes.
Is that how it's, maybe I'm just being picky, but I was listening for support services when I didn't hear that. So does this have to be renamed or does this have to be, pull those words, those letters out? I don't know. I was just listening for that when I didn't hear it. So
what were you thinking of when you saw supporting services? Were you
I
thinking
was
special
thinking,
education?
yeah, I was not thinking, I didn't, my eye had scanned down and I went supporting services. Oh, okay, you know, and I was thinking maybe central office because I saw the CO
Mhm.
and I was thinking, oh, the people at central office, not necessarily just the curriculum coordinators. I just want to make sure we're clear.
We can certainly update it so it's so clear that it's each.
I just think it needs to pop out a little bit better. That's my opinion. Thank you.
I could recognize Rita and then Beverly.
Thank you. I would like to know who the data manager is and what exactly are the duties of the data manager that has an assistant also and an admin staff.
Well, as you know, Tom Lonsdale had been our student data manager and took another position to learn. And so we have gone through the process and we've hired Lauren Crincini, she will start next week. We can share with you the job description which was really very similar to what Tom had followed. And when we first introduced the concept of having a student data manager, I know we had worked closely with the board to get that position through and to look at the job description. So I'd be happy. We're just actually pulling that up along with the posting because we're going to be orienting her very soon. We're looking forward to having her. So I can definitely get that out.
Okay, for the couple of months that we didn't have a data manager, that savings, what would that be put towards, Ken?
This position was paid primarily through here. It is supported a little bit through the semester.
I would say that the work of our central office team has really supported that, including your superintendent and assistant superintendent. That was what I did a lot of as an assistant superintendent. But I would say that savings probably are going, I don't know what they would be going towards, but we do have a septic issue that we've had to take care of a little bit. And so I'm sure there are things operationally that we've been able to take care of that would have been more difficult to take care of and not have that.
There are some items where we're over budget, such as that.
Okay, well, if there's any way that this could be reduced, this department, I would appreciate seeing if you could find some savings there. I mean, to have these curriculum coordinators getting paid under the admin contract as well as the teacher's contract, it's a little confusing. Where do they get their benefits? Do they do their benefits with the administrator's contract or with the teacher's contract? Are they 50-50? Is it 60-40 if it's every other day? I find this a little confusing, the way it's situated here, and then you don't really get a, like Liz said, a good picture of the salaries of these people.
Thank you, Rita.
Well, no, I mean, I really wanted a reply, Kim. I said, how are you gonna fix this so that you really see what the salaries are of these three people? Are they in the admin union? Are they in part of the teachers? What really are their salaries
Part of the
for these
marketing
three people?
of the AGSA. So they follow that contract, but one day, because the salary is not under the contract, because it's really it's half of the teacher's salary at their step, and then it's also half of an administrative salary. I think it was at the lower rate, so we can absolutely put it in the narrative here, we can put it in the narrative where it shows up at Fitch High School, or I think we actually do have it there. Have it under the Groton Middle School and the Fitch High School. But this is all a
I want
decision.
to know why, who made the decision to have them split and be under the admin contract as opposed to the
That
teacher?
was education. Mike Grenier had presented this concept, I think about 3-4 years ago when we began.
Right, but I was curious if we could reverse that as opposed in, I just want to know which would be the most cost saving, keeping them under admin or having them under the teacher's contract.
They do evaluate teaching staff, and that was part of the responsibilities that we. So that means if you can't do that unless you're an administrator.
I realize that, but I mean, we have quite a few administrators in our middle school and our high school for evaluations. I mean, there's an overabundance of administrators as far as I'm concerned. And then you have these other three people doing administrative work where our curriculum coordinators at one time, when Liz was there, they were under the administration, but we've had other times our curriculum coordinators have been part of the teaching contract. So I just would, I just don't want to see so many administrators evaluating. To me, it just seems like an overkill. But that's just my thought, and hopefully you can resolve this in some way and reduce these salaries going forward. Thank you. That's it.
Beverly and then Liz.
Thank you, Kim. My thoughts are with Rita and Liz, so I'm just gonna say ditto to what they said. The curriculum coordinators, what subject areas are they coordinating? I heard you say ELA.
English language arts,
Mm-hmm.
humanities, which was what Carmita had done, and now Laura Johnson is doing. So that's your social studies and world language. And then STEM, Caitlin Crowley is doing really science and mathematics and engineering. She's really got a full load.
What was the second one, Susan? I couldn't hear you clearly.
Second one was humanities, which was world language.
Oh,
and
humanities. Okay.
social studies, right? Yep.
Okay. And the clerical staff, they work not only with the data manager, but with the curriculum coordinators.
Yes, it's a superstar that we have in teaching and learning who's been there for quite a while. She interfaces, she works really closely with Phil Piazza, with the student data manager, sometimes with me. So she really wears many hats.
Okay. And then when you hire the data manager, do you try to hire them like we do? I don't know if you still do, the principals and the assistant principals with 10% or whatever percent lower, and then bring them up in a couple of years? Or
Well,
you
they
just
all-
hire them at the same salary?
They started a starting administrative salary and then, like you said, have an opportunity to move forward.
All right, so do you hire them at a lower salary and then move them up?
Right, at a starting salary. And this is someone who has a 12-month job. So the student data manager doesn't have a 10-month job. And then with summer days, they really are around the clock. So they are really a 12-month position.
Well, I think what Beverly is getting at is that if it's a new administrator to this position for this person, we hired them 10% lower than the beginning administrative salary. because they hadn't had the experience. So that, I think that's what Beverly was trying to say, that it's not the, it shouldn't be the starting administrative salary, it should be 10% less than that. And then you brought them up as time, went on.
That's right, Rita. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I understand. Yes,
I got it.
I understood to be.
What was the answer, Susan?
Yes, that's what I understood your question to be. That's why I said yes. That's what we
Okay.
did.
You're not doing it 10% less. You're doing it at the first step.
I don't have the figures in front of me. Lori's not here, but that's what I understood was negotiate.
All right, could you give us the correct answer to that question?
I would, as soon as I get Lori back, I can ask.
Okay.
I just wanna, I don't, is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay, I wanna clarify. When I was teaching at Fitch, my salary was, and I was administrator, my salary was split between the administrative union as well as the teaching union, because I was doing both. So I just want to clarify, that's nothing new. That's something that has been practice and was what I experienced way back in 2000 when I was hired until 2012 and then I joined the teachers ranks and my salary was
I said, yes, I said, except for when Liz was a coordinator. That it was split then, I knew that. It was before, I was thinking of before that time.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Any other questions on this page?
No.
All right, hearing none, let's move on.
Okay, we're moving on to 5-7A. Function 2202, the diversity, equity, inclusion. Description, the stipend for this year and next year are paid out of and ARP ESSER, ARP ESSER is on page 5-79. This is we're anticipating spending this similar to how we're utilizing it this year with 11,600 under instructional improvement service dollars. No increase this year.
Rita?
My question is, if you look at 322, in 21-22, it was 3,000. Then last year went up to 11,000. This year it's going up. So when you say there's no increase, to me, there really is an increase of quite a bit. Each one of those lines, diversity, the last one, total supplies was $10,950, and now we're up to 15,000. So that's a third more. I know you're saying, oh no, there's no increase, but there really was quite a large increase from 2 years ago. So, it just, to me, that I always find it a little disheartening when you say zero increase from the year before, when if you look the year before that, there's a huge increase. So that's my comment.
Clarify, 2022, we utilized our ESSER to fund some of the other. That's why 2022 was lower than what we're budgeting for this year.
21-22 was lower because you used more funding.
Funding from our ESSER.
So you're just looking at FY23, which is the current year, to
No,
FY.
I like to look at the budget across,
It's always to go the year before, but when we calculate the percent increase, we're calculating it from the price from this point.
I know, I understand that, Susan.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah,
Right.
I understand.
I'm going to recognize Beverly.
Can you give me an example or a couple of examples of instructional improvement services? What are you talking about with that?
I can talk a little bit. I can talk a little bit about that. generally, that's the work that we're doing to update our curriculum, do equity audits, establish our equity teams in our school. I think, you know, if you go back 2 years, a lot of the work that we were doing in TEI was the self-reflection of study, which probably didn't require a lot of funds, and now we're actually doing the work. We're bringing in different literature that our teachers are studying to become more culturally relevant instructors. We're also bringing in, you know, some professional development in district. And a lot of it is geared on really revamping our curriculum, doing audits to our curriculum through equity, as well as trying to build the skills in our teachers. That help?
You know what? There's so much of an echo. I didn't really
Right.
get what you said. I'm sorry, but that's okay. That's okay. Can you just send me a little note what you're talking about?
I can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Certain people, there's a real echo, so it's hard to hear.
It would be helpful when the person who talks that you say is the echo, so that we can locate the mic.
Well, Phil's was the most.
Okay, that would be great. Beth, do you have any more questions?
Nope, if Phil just sends me the explanation by email, I'm good.
Okay, I think he said he was going to. All right, we're gonna move on.
On to page 5-80. The function 10, improvement of instruction. Where, let's see. Core materials, strategic professional resources, and new instructional materials, staff development. The 5-1. Line 101, that is a cost for writing curriculum instruction. Anticipating less need for that next year. $1,000. Are anticipating an increase, a continued increase under line 224 graduate credit courses. Teachers are certainly taking a chance to do extra classes, finding that
We can't really hear Ken.
is that better?
Yeah, it fades in and out, so
Okay.
that sounds a little better.
Under purchase services, line 322, instructional improvement services, we have an increase of 6,700. This line funds are in
Hey,
district
Ken, that says 67,000.
67,700. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said 6,700.
I apologize. This line funds our in-district PE days as well as funding our district DEI initiatives. And additional item have a ELL as well.
Yeah, and this also ties in with some of the things I was talking about previously, the DEI, all the strategic initiatives that we have in place, including working with Dr. Jerry Paul, Ms. Minor, Dr. Kim Parker, and we spoke about each of those in the past. We want to continue that work. Unfortunately, you know, they're
You're gonna need.
We're using, yeah, we're using a number of acronyms that are familiar to us, not be familiar. What the acronym means, something. And learning, which has its own embedded meaning, perhaps explain it so they understand what.
All right, continue to go down the page. We have an increase 5.5% under travel for workshop conventions, $1,000. Under supplies, an increase under computer software of $22,908. This is being driven by universal screener that we need to put in place. State mandated software. And total for improvement of instruction, an increase of 85,127, 30.6%.
I'm gonna recognize Dean, Liz, and then Beverly. Can you please,
Loud enough, but okay. Dr. Piazza, the three individuals you named before, what were they again? Were they again, I should say? Cornelius Paul, Kim Parker,
Dr. Jerry Paul.
Cherry or Jerry?
I'm sorry, her first name is Sonia, and then Cherry Paul. Then last name. Cornelius Minor.
Yep.
And Dr. Kim Parker.
Okay.
And then just to add to that, just because Ken had mentioned it, for our English language training as well, for our teaching, Dr. Ferraro, she's doing, Marissa Ferraro, she's doing so.
Okay, and you said, well, you know, the numbers going up, but that's driven by we have to pay the fee. Nothing. Can you tell me what it is we expect to pay?
Well, I'm currently gathering those to extend the work. And then we hope to be able to, we've established some really great relationships with all four of these individuals. So we're hoping to sort of work with them. They've had a positive experience in our district. It's been positively received by our staff who are anxious to do the work, which isn't always the case. So those are coming in now. So I'm trying to, I can't provide those as far as I get them.
The work is really around literacy, reading and writing across disciplines. So really taking what we've learned about the teaching of reading and writing in the elementary, middle school, and the high school. They are at different levels. So Sonia Cherry Paul works for elementary, with the elementary teachers. Cornelius Minor works for the middle school, had been their staff developer when they had TC with them, and then the Dr. Kim Parker is the ELA teacher right now at the high school. So really, with ELA, social studies, science, really digging into the teaching of reading and writing across the discipline. Things like informational reading and writing, close reading, vocabulary, some of the fundamentals. And I think the pandemic didn't help us with some of those things. So it's been really a driver for getting, really getting our instruction powerful. Submerged.
86.2 that's been allotted for this line item is mostly going to these consultants, partially. Third, can you guess at all?
Most.
Most.
And the average that you get for a consultant like that, they come into the district half a dozen or more times, and then they Zoom with them every month and work with them all the way along. So those fees tend to be between $14,000 and $20,000. And that's what we've been seeing, even with teachers.
Thank you.
I just have, it just seems to me like there's this huge increase, which there is, $67,000. Were they doing this, business, or they were doing what they were doing for us, but we are only budgeted for 18.5? I mean, how did we get what how are we getting these benefits from these people? Were we not paying them? Were we paying them through a grant? And all of a sudden we go up 338%. It seems to me a lot to swallow. So I'm just kind of trying to figure it out.
And I think it's a combination of both. We were paying some through grants. We were also in the first steps of our work, so it didn't require multiple visits. Maybe for example, Dr. Cherry Paul is spending one day elementary school. So, and plus she had 1 day with administrator, so we paid for 6 days. The next level of work, she has ideas for the next level of work, but it couldn't 10 days, 15 days, and that would obviously affect. It's a combination of the work increasing and getting a little bit deeper building, as well as maybe the funds not being able.
I just find it, we have highly trained teachers. And I just feel like we're adding consultants here. It just doesn't feel like our teachers should be able to do this.
So this is why they're so good, is we've had this embedded coaching all along, and they are wonderful teachers, spectacular. But especially during COVID, where kids have lost some learning, it was really imperative that they did have, that they could rely on to ask questions of, to really support them, and to continue that embedded coaching. So it's, these consultants are very good at that and have been very helpful, and the teachers have given us very positive feedback.
I'm just concerned that this is maybe, we're not out of COVID, but we're back in school. And I'm not sure about this expenditure.
Fabulous. I need to recognize Bev, Rita, and Benita. Bev?
Thank you, Kim. I have the same concerns on that line 322. Is it possible that you can tell us through board notes or whatever method you want to use, how much we spend a year on consultants? How much do we spend a year on consultants?
Okay.
I'll be right back. I gotta go.
Rita?
Yes, so my thoughts were the same as what Liz expressed, because I know we have an excellent staff, and I'm sure there are people on staff that could do some of the things that these consultants are doing. But I would like to see that figure at least cut in half, set over 385%. Maybe do more Zoom meetings, not have these people travel into the district. Just, it has to be reduced. I mean, we have to find savings in this budget, and maybe that's one of them. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Rita.
I hope this is working. Yes. I've been listening to my colleagues and different lectures from administration and colleagues. And so my understanding of what I heard is that a large part of this is powered by the need to compensate for. My question is, do you see this as year after year? Do you see this 1 or 2 or 3 years to end up around? How do you envision this?
Well, in terms of instructional software and the different things like that, I think those costs not going to be there on an ongoing basis. We're continually looking at what's being used and what we're having the most success with, and evaluating those there and some cuts. In terms of the DEI work, to be honest with you, I mean, to me, that doesn't have as much to do with COVID as to sort of where we need to get to as a district. I think we'd like to think that we have all the skills we need right now, but I think even when we pull the staff, like I said, that first year or two that we've been doing this work, there's a lot of self-evaluation, and I think the staff has come to our own conclusion that there's still a lot that we need to learn. Now, whether or not we have to get the platinum package that some of these are offering up, absolutely, we're going to have to do our due diligence and see where we can balance that. But again, anytime we're talking DEI, I don't like to say it's a 2-year plan, because as we know, it's something that we have to weave into our goal, and that hopefully eventually we get to that point where we don't need the training as much, and so that's when the cost.
So does that make sense, Paula? Thank you. I concur with you completely. Yeah, diversity, equity, and inclusion are things that we need to do. I think the question that I heard raised had to do with the consultants fees. And as with any new enterprise, there tends to be a pretty sharp vertical curve in the initiation phase. Levels off to be maintained and keep things running smoothly. Can you give us any sense of your view of the horizon on this? That's what I'm hearing my colleagues say. Expensive and goes up another 20% next year.
Well, I guess I'll use our DEI committee's, 5-year plan. I think it's the 5-year plan. So next year would be year 4. So I think the goal was to make ourselves as much, build our own capacity for those 5 years. These would invest in at least a couple more years. But then again, I don't see, these fees, I do question the area of education I've gotten into as public speaking consultant. They can be astronomical. I think it's a combination of finding somebody that's affordable and has the effects over staff that these really seem to have had. Like I said, all I can do is promise you that we'll do our best to negotiate with them and use our good graces that we sort of built with them to get it down to a manageable.
Look forward to next year's and expected.
If I could wrap this piece up, what I hear some of us on the board state is that we need to hear what the strategic plan is around this use. Though we all see the benefit of having our staff have professional development in this area. I think that we're pretty excited about the fact that the staff seem very receptive of it. But not having a strategic plan in terms of what is the forward motion, and I believe that both both Beverly and Rita and Liz spoke to that. And I think I'm just sort of reiterating what you're saying, Matthew. But also, if to hear what Rita has to say is that we are going to have to start, like it's going to become the board's budget, and we are going to have to start making cuts in some place. And so if this is something that's that I guess we want to hear, I hear what you're saying, but I want to know why this is really important. So maybe if we could star this, and that when we start to have our deliberations about our budget, that we can have more information so we can kind of take a look at it. I don't know if that's a good wrap up about what people are saying, but that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Kim.
I'm going to recognize Dean. So Dean, if you could grab the microphone, that would be great.
I'll make it short. Don't all agree. I'm not excited.
Okay.
Can I just get a point of clarification? Is this item for DEI? I have down in my notes, inter-district PD, district DEI initiatives, and ELL. So, I mean, is it all combined, or is it there's certain people doing certain things? I would love to have it written out so that we know what this is about, so that we can then have a better conversation. So if we could tag that and have because I think there's too many questions. So let's get a little bit more of a narrative behind that. I think that would be helpful.
No problem.
Thank you. We have about 15 minutes before 7 o'clock. Ken, in the pacing that we're doing, how are we doing? Do you see that we?
I think we're gonna get through all of it.
Do you think that we could do technology page 598 to 99 and then see where we are? So you guys, I'm just looking at pacing, and that's why we're only on February 3rd. So I think we're gonna drop down to that, and that's gonna be $598. And I'm not trying to take your thunder, you're on.
So you're skipping the district administrators?
I just don't think we're gonna have enough time to talk about that in 15 minutes, but
I
this will
agree.
be a better, chunk of time.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we're going to go to 598. It's function 2540, computer support services and technology. Let's see, we have FTEs, we have the director, we have 3 technicians that work out of central office. We have 5 technicians that are based in the schools. And 1, or go down to 5-99. Costs, salaries, the technicians are contract. And all for salaries, a 2% increase. Employee benefits up 3.8%. Under professional services, we have line 331. This is costs for consultants for software implementations. We have an increase of 300 or this year's budget. Computer network services, an increase of 32. These are the costs incurred in order to run a network, get internet. Total amount for purchase services is 192,600, an increase of 10.7%. Next line down, purchase property services, repair of equipment. This is a repair of maintenance for the copiers and other equipment that we have in buildings. And 441 is the lease payments for those copiers. That's an increase of 10,000 as well. So total for this for purchase property services is a $20,300 increase. Next section down, purchase services, telephone costs increase to $8,000. This is new telephone system as well as new phone program tandem. So that's a percent overall services. Supplies, decrease in computer supplies of $7,500. An increase in computer software of $65,029. Just to make everyone aware, we do supplement the computer software with the DoD supplement that few years. Overall, for supplies, up 32.3%, and under equipment, have increase of 17,800. So total for computer support services at 154,000, 10.1.
And just a general question
Please talk.
now. And this is a general information question. With regard to this particular item, you said some supplemental grant funds for the items. Where we use supplemental grant funds for a given item, I'm presuming, dangerous word, that some grants are the grants are more fungible. Things. So, am I correct that for? So when we were talking about using grant money, we indicated that's a mandatory allocation grant, or if there's some funds.
Beverly?
Thank you. Ken, can you explain the increase in the computer software line? And my second question will be too, can you tell me the process of when you repair equipment and then when you replace it? Is it like in 5 years, we don't repair it anymore, we replace it? Is there a process on how you figure all that out?
Bev, if you don't mind, I'm gonna take this one. So the majority of the increase in line 612 is related to, we installed 2 brand new firewalls, which are basically the main gatekeeper, if you will, that connects our entire school system and all the networks associated with it, with the outside world. So really that was a long overdue upgrade for security reasons and really throughput, because we're continuing to see every year more and more bandwidth needs from our staff, from our students. Second piece to that was, again, in the security category, we are now required by our insurance provider for, so that we have cybersecurity insurance coverage, we've had to turn on 2-factor authentication, and a lot of that reflects licensing as well for that. 2-factor authentication, or 2FA, most, if not all of you have probably used it. If you connect to Amazon.com or Facebook, what have you, and it sends you a 6-digit code to your cell phone to verify you are who you are, and someone else isn't masquerading as you and using your elsewhere. We've had to put in place those things. One, I think it's good practice, but 2, it is now a requirement for us to be able to carry cybersecurity insurance for that. Regarding your second question, Beth, we try to carry it, especially hardware. We will use it as long as we can feasibly, that it provides value in the classroom, and we need to determine that value based on, 1, is it usable and in good shape for students to use, but 2, can it also integrate with the software services and the network that we have. So we very much do our due diligence to keep those moving on, but if the cost increases that value, or is more to repair than to replace or buy new, we would go to new, also taking into consideration, obviously, the programs that we wanted to integrate and implement with fidelity, so that is typically how we do. We take it a case-by-case basis. We have teacher laptops, we have student laptops, we have student tablets, Promethean boards, et cetera, et cetera. Is that an additional question for that, Bev, or is that good?
No, that's it, Clint. Thank you very much, Clint.
Of course.
I'm going to recognize Rita and then Dee.
Okay, hi, Clint.
Rita.
I have a question. Do the schools feel as if they are supported with the 5 school-based technicians? Is that enough support? Are they spread too thin, is what I'm asking you?
I think we have a good balance right now. We have been continuing to increase the reliance on technology. There's not a department, there is not an activity, there's nothing that we don't do that does not touch technology. All of our phones are now VoIP phones, which is voice over internet protocol. So all of that runs on our networks now. To answer your question directly, we do have adequate support. Could we always use more? Yes. Are we doing the best we can with the resources we have now? I believe so. Those 5 technicians in the buildings, we have 2 dedicated directly to the 2 schools on the hill, high school and middle school. We have, of the 3 remaining, 2 each have 2 elementary schools, which they split time 50-50 between, and work closely with me and with those building principals to address issues for ticketing system and so forth. And the 3rd has the remaining elementary school, but then also spends half of their time up on the hill as well, because we do have 2/3 of our staff high school and middle school. So I have that person float in to support those needs as well. So that's really the design we have. And then the 3 at the central office, 1 is specifically for network, 1 is specifically for our systems and integration, and then the 3rd is for Power School Administration, which is our student information system, which is really the bread and butter of the student data, attendance, grades, so forth that we have.
Okay, and I have another question, and that would be, what percentage, or what is the exact figure that we are receiving from the DoD supplemented impact aid grant, since we're already spending, well over $1.5 million on this account? So how much else is it? How is it supplemented? What is the figure there?
That was actually gonna be our next subject on this. Have that, if you have that.
Oh, okay. So then I'll have one more quick question then. Maybe the travel for administrators and workshops, it went, like a couple of years ago, of course, during COVID, it was $75, I guess, and then it's gone up quite a bit. Where do the people go do they go for training or?
They do go for training. We always try to do online as best we can. But there are times when we'll have someone, a Power School administrator will go to Power School University. We're trying to really improve scheduling to make sure there's more opportunity for students, being efficient with our staffing. An example, that would be an opportunity that I don't think we've used this line item in the past. I've only been here for a year and a half. That's speculation, but as things open up, more and more of the learning is returning to in-person activities. Personally do feel there's real value in hybrid or online learning. There's also additional value in being face to ask questions. Network.
Okay, thank you.
Have inventory of the equipment, I'm gonna call it data processing, computer printers, whatever, in the schools. I know it's more difficult to do this with that technology than it is with, say, motor vehicles. But do we have a schedule we can say, okay, we've got this equipment, such and such equipment from each category. We can expect a usable life of so many years, after which we plan to retire units. We're not allowed to keep a fund. Like it every year, like the town can, to sort of even out any bumps. So it's basically, if I understand it, whatever we need in a given year to, right, that's what goes in the budget. Heavy years and some light years that we don't have in place, very much of anything. What I'd like to see is the ability to somehow coordinate outside the school, the town as a whole, the town council, maybe have a fund like that to even out. Now that, I don't know how that's going to work, because a lot of times when it comes to this, I really do wish we could have a little pot like it every year, so that this could be funded and it would be smooth long term. Have an inventory like that.
We do. We have an inventory system. It is traditionally, prior to me being here, was an addition to our library information system. The decision had been made whenever to use that. It's cataloging books and resources in the library, and technology was being used as that. I have made a decision. We've now migrated to a new system, tying to the library information system, desk system. But we can directly connect you as a teacher with what equipment have you been assigned to, what's in your classroom, how often has there been breakage or an IT help desk ticket request and whatever, and we have a whole history of that. So the short answer is yes. Additional answer is yes, we have a brand new system that we've hung onto IT as a library. And in regards to your final point, I believe we are now leasing teacher laptops. And that does and we are following a long history of many other school districts that have really started to do that. As we got in, interest rates were lower, far lower, and over time that becomes a way to even out those high roads and low roads. Doing that only with teacher laptops, that's it. We do that with printing equipment. We do not currently do that with student equipment, not do that with career media, some of the other larger items. I certainly not disagree with the way that we predict and plan, and I do have those plans of what we think end of life will be, to even that out, better budgetary system.
And that's even my follow-up. If you sit here and say, well, if I refer to certain data information that I've got, I can hear such and such, looking at
Absolutely.
a large ask. A lot of stuff's gonna happen, like to retire.
And if you saw the history on kind of that last chunk, the total equipment, 730 through 730, those are typically one of the areas that we throw out. We're trying to make, all the way back to Beth's question, we're trying to make this equipment last as long as we can and so forth. And we're doing our due diligence. We had an injection of dollars for Chromebooks during COVID. That will certainly go away. We made a real commitment where every student 6 through 12 has a Chromebook with them 7, and we are 1-to-1 at the elementary level as well, but those do not.
Rita, your hand was it's still up?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
It's,
that's fine. If there's no more questions for this, I am going to propose that the 2 items that were not covered today will be discussed on Monday. And that should begin to sort of finalize out our budget conversations.
oh, I did have a question, Kim, when you finish talking.
Please,
It's a quick one. It's just the review of the DoD supplemental impact aid. That is not in our budget book, correct?
That's correct.
So could you send that to the board before we review it on Monday?
Absolutely. I was gonna say we should do that.
Thank you.
thank you, Rita. So at this time, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstain, that motion is carried. We will, in a couple of seconds, be going for next week. Okay, so. Yeah, pretty much. It is a one on the. So that they. Thank you. We were actually done with our meeting, so town council. I'm back. Oh, please join us at the table. In all of our meetings. I think this one. Always meetings. Okay, so I think we go that's right. That's the one that's got-
You, I would like to have you read this. Right, that's expecting, okay. All right, yeah. Where's my Jill? Yeah.
Some person. And that's. And
So.
I just did.
How many is?
I All right. Four. We don't, we're not making any decisions. You only have Kathy here. Mike Whitney and Mike Whitney. Yeah. Okay, I'll make a quick phone call. I think. I don't make enough signing. Sorry. And I don't think that. So do you want to be starting on your second? My song. And you're all.
Oh, gee.
I thought we were.
So Mike, I know that, are we on? Okay. I was gonna say, Mike, if you can hear me, Mike, we are going to start the meeting. I know that you don't have your forum for your, you do now. We do now. Thank you so very much. So when I'll let you go.
Okay, I'll also. Council Board of Education, RCN, Education. Needs order to help.
Oh, there's Mike. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, you're kind of broken up. I can't really hear what's being said.
Okay. Joint budget meeting, the town council, board of ed and the RCM education committee. The town council has a quorum, all councilors present except for Council Westphal.
I would like to call to order the Board of Education joint budget meeting with the town council and the RTM. And Mike, would you like to call to order your education committee?
I'll call to order the Education Committee meeting.
Present are Chair Mike Whitney, Representative Jim Gustafson, and Representative Kathy Chase. So if I could be so bold to start. So I don't necessarily have the history in terms of how many years that this happened. But for those people who do or do not know, the Groton Board of Education starts working on their next fiscal year budget in January. The superintendent and her staff really kind of begin in October to kind of get things together and then produce a budget that is hers for us to look at for the month of January. And by charter, we are required to have a board budget handed off to the town council, the town manager by the 27th of February. And the experience has been that in early February, late January, the Board of Ed and the town council meet to talk about what is the town council's feeling about town funds, the budget, their expectations, their questions, kind of know maybe or ask questions about what we're thinking as a board. And pre the pandemic, the then Mayor Patrice and Sima, who was the moderator at that time, we decided actually that it made a lot of sense to have the education committee be part of the discussions at this meeting. So I know that this happened for many years, Dean. I know that you were on the town council for many years and that this was a conversation that happened. That is sort of why we're together tonight. I do know that Superintendent Austin put together the slideshow that we actually used primarily, most of them, for our public hearing. So they are there to help guide any conversations or questions that people might have. I do ask that we keep this to the budget. I'm also would like to just sort of suggest that let's have as many questions, discussions, thoughtful points, but to also recognize that most of us have come from full-time jobs and that maybe we can hold this meeting no more than an hour and a half would be my goal. I do know that the board did want to talk a little bit about the discussion that happened in the town council maybe last week about the non-lapsing funds, and the board is wanting to be able to take a very thoughtful look at that, but to do that and to have our staff get pulled away from looking at those issues along with trying to support doing our budget. I have referred that topic to the Finance and Facility Board Committee, and we're looking forward to having further conversations with the town council and the town, but we would hope that it would not go into effect this coming fiscal year, so that we can know more about it and see the pros and cons of that. So I just wanted to let you know that we also appreciate Manager Burke in making sure that we were aware of that. But I think that that's sort of where we are at the present moment. Another point of clarification is we put together several CIPs that you will notice, that have a lot to do with the field. It's the bleachers, it is the concession stand, field has concession stand. Help me out, folks. I'm sorry. And change room, that's the facilities. And we put those in that we just didn't want to have them lost in the conversation, because I know that the field committee, we know that the field committee is working really hard, but there's a lot of concern that we have for those items. And we just wanted to make sure that the town could kind of look at that, but we also know that it's way above, it's above capital improvement, it's a bonding issue. But once again, we wanted to make sure that people heard what those concerns are. And our other one, and I think that this was brought to us through conversations with
Superintendent Austin and Manager John Burt, about our safety and security, and that will also be in CIP form, and we can talk about that when we get into our conversations, but I wanted to let you know, as you got them, that they would be there. So I think that laid the land, I think, for where we are at, and I think at this point, I think that how we're going to do that, if it's RTM education members, Mike will have you recognize people, any town counselors, Juan Melendez, Mary Melendez, will recognize, and I will recognize Board of Ed members.
And to procedurally note that Representative Frickman is also here for the education.
Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can ask this question. Yes, I think I don't on your health insurance. I just don't know what the word card. You say health insurance is a card.
So my sense is that there might be people in this room that don't recognize the Board of Ed staff. So when you begin to talk, if you could just introduce yourself.
Something that we should write up out in the audience.
This is a better way to do that.
No, this is, I think we've done all the procedural things and the reason why behind this and sort of, stuff. So it's about questions. And so if you've got questions about the board or about our health insurance fund, that makes sense. So Ken, would it be easy for you to put that up?
So really, there were several topics that we thought of. That's why we really condensed this into kind of slides, because this really comes up year after year, and these are some of the major topics, like revenues that support the town's budget, our Groton Public Schools budget categories and what they're made of, how does the school budget run, grants that supplement the budget, both categorical and competitive, and now we have COVID, we call them the 3 Cs. History of Groton Public Schools budget, per pupil spending and comparing to other districts, and then of course the health reserve and OPEB, which is we feel it's a real civic responsibility to make sure that we do that. And then finally the CIP priorities. So those are some of the topics that we thought might be interesting to really take a look at, and we can certainly start with the health savings and OPEB. You have the slides available. You have them in front of you, but for those who are on the screen.
This is my very crude attempt visually show what a health insurance reserve is, its inputs and its outputs, and then the red and the yellow are the reserve, the amounts that need to stay within the corridor. It's a term that health insurance companies use, and it indicates the minimum amount that as a insurance plan we have to maintain. So we have to maintain 25% of annual claims at the minimum that we have to have. The yellow indicates the amount above that. The down, but any further that red. I don't know if that helps.
Well, basically, the way this works is 25% of annual claims. So it's at $9 million is the amount of claims a year. So you have to have 20 million of that, which is 2 million.
Right.
You keep a reserve, another 2 million on top of that, just
right, because you can't go below that, so we
all right.
have to have something that claims beyond what
You basically keep 4.3 million in an account.
and it's actually a combined account down and more keep this.
So this is just a county requirement that you need to have 25% reason you health insurance. instead of 9 million, was 12 million, then you have 3 million in that account. Floats around based on the 25%, and then you just keep the 2 million above it, self-imposed, versus that regular.
No, above that is self. Real reserve. Here. Very.
So there's a required reserve in the Board of Ed reserve.
A required reserve.
And
then the OPEB is something. I don't know if you're finished, I'm sorry.
no, I think I'm just trying to understand how this, so, employees put in $1 million a year, the Board of Ed puts in 7, which is part of the budget, part of the regular budget. Laser stop loss claims, those would.
So every self-insured insurance has what's called stop loss insurance. So that's to guard the plan against somebody has huge losses. So our any claim covered by insurance policy. The insurance company does have all laser claims where we're not going to cover those at 200. We're going to after it's another.
And that's the 300 per person.
A laser claim, we only have one laser claim, so that one claim.
Right, I think I almost didn't understand some of it.
You like to look at OPEB since really you should know.
Sure.
Actually, Ken had to draw some pictures because we were all studying with this, and when you drew pictures, kind of made the model, kind of made a little more sense.
OPEB stands for other post benefits. This really covers our retired population. It works very similar to a health insurance reserve, although there is order, there's no minimum, but there's balance to these claims as they, and so it works in a very similar fashion. Contributions from each retirement board and then retirees off. But that is a certain. Once again, this is buying reserve.
This is health insurance for retirees.
You mentioned about those safety updates. Are you looking for grants? Because I noticed grants.
Yes, we knew that there would be one coming, and we actually got several emails today, and we're going to be looking into it. So, we've written the ARP grant, so we've really put together a proposal, and so we're kind of ready to, do what we have to do, because I have it. We had study done at the high school through Homeland Security, and we got some wonderful recommendations, things that we could do right away, and then also things that tied right back into the safety and more cameras, mutual link, which would fire departments, police departments, and the schools together, so that should there be any kind of emergency with the panic button that a teacher or a staff member would have, they would have eyesight into the building exactly where things are happening. So I'm really feeling like this is, and that was one of the recommendations. And then I understand too, we meet on a pretty regular basis. Understand what that is. And we met as a campus, Groton Tech, Fitch High School, and Groton Middle School just this week. And out of that meeting, we discussed these security plans, and the state police were there because they oversee Groton. And the state police department already had this mutual. So they were really recommending that the local. It's like a software, so it. And then your cameras do work. Pretty cool thing.
And two questions on the report. The purchase services, which is 300, and then the supplies account, 600. Can you explain those really? Thank you.
So, the graph behind it is really tells the story. If I can put that up first, and then I can kind of tell you how, using the model, the GPS budget categories.
There is some kind of feedback that is high pitched and it's. Can anybody else hear this? Because it's pretty annoying and I'm sure if I can hear it, they can hear it.
I did hear it. There it goes. I'm sorry to interrupt. So.
Before you start that, but that's not gonna show what you're seeing on this page, so will you be flipping?
Yeah, I'm gonna flip it. So this just starts with every school budget, you know, what it's made of. And so really the largest chunk in the blue you can see is salary and benefits, 76%. What do we give our students in school? We give them, you know, the best teachers, highly qualified, the paraprofessionals, the custodians, the cafeteria workers, the bus drivers, and, you know, and bus aides. And so that really is the biggest chunk of our school budget. And then tuitions and contracted services are a slice of the pie. Transportation and transportation costs have gone up. We really have a bid that we are working on right now, and we haven't signed a contract yet, but they're working on getting us a contract. And the first year it was 21%. So transportation is a big ticket item, and it's in the green, and it's a little larger slice of the pie than it had been in the past. Utilities, if you know, I know that my electric bill and heating bill, everybody's fees have gone up. This is really a year of inflation, and it's not only happening in our homes, but it's happening in industry and in our schools. So, that cost is about 3.8%, and then non-contractual expenses at 4%. So if we flip over, really, we can address, it's laid out 100 through the 800s are the categories that define salaries, benefits, purchase service, property services, transportation, supplies, equipment, and dues. So specifically, your question was around, can you repeat that for me so I can help answer it?
I'm looking at 300. Transportation, I understand to a degree. Well, I'm gonna actually have one, 300, 500, and.
So 300s are your purchase services. They, you know, one of the things that has gone up is preventative maintenance and some inflation in this case. Ken can be specific about some of those items that are in the 300s for us. And then what else did you want to look at? The 500s?
500 and 600.
Okay. 500, of course, is that transportation cost based on the bid. And that was about $1 million increase the budget. And then the 600s are all of our supplies. So the supply costs have definitely, we've seen inflation. It also includes not only from paper and pencils and all the supplies that we have in the classroom, but the heat, the electricity, gas. So if Ken could give us some specificity around that and what's happening there.
There under supplies, there was we do have we're seeing a large increase. Electricity costs, as well as diesel. In addition, last year, we had some leftover gallons that we're able to utilize this year, but that next year, double whammy. Gallons. So that's what's really driving. And then your property services, professional services, maintenance, and some of the professional services, as the occupational therapy or physical therapy or other doctor service, those rates going on.
And you've really highlighted the big ticket items. You see salaries are up $1.3 million. The transportation, over $1 million. And then, I guess the next largest is in the supplies with those increased inflation. Everything from. Yeah.
What was under purchase services? Preventative maintenance?
It's preventative maintenance on equipment as well as professional services that we utilize, medical, patient therapy, physical therapy. And
Moderator Russell, my points. Oh, okay. Thank you. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. So this is the first time I'm seeing the presentation. And would it be possible to go through the whole presentation? Scrub it all so that we're sort of jumping around and getting all.
That's what I had said in the beginning. So I'm so happy that you said that.
Rachel, the joke between Susan and I, that years past, people have said, please don't do the presentation. And so I said, please don't do the presentation. She's like, I want to do the presentation.
I think we have to have your be oriented first.
Sorry,
That's why.
there's the orientation to it. This is the first time I'm seeing it, so thank you.
So we start
The beginning.
Actually, Mark, do you have the PowerPoint up?
I don't, I'm signed in as GPS 19 and.
Yeah, you don't have to do these PowerPoint. Right, here we go. We're together, joint budget meeting, February 1st.
So, revenue.
And then, of course, this is always Kim's part, because she is as board chair, always reminds us what our mission is and our goals. And our belief statement. You want to say it?
They're there, but what I love about this budget is that the budget really does support our mission statement, our goals, and our belief statement. So, I'm just let you continue. I think that this budget tells a story, and very soon it will become our story. Right now, it's your story.
And we are going through, while it came out of the gate at this inflationary cost. The board is doing due diligence on everything, going through and that area that possibly, reduce and carve and look at some more, find another grant. So, we'll continue to do that, and then it will become their budget by the end of the month. So we'll move it along. These were the topics I mentioned, so we're going to start with the revenues that support the town's budget. So the highlights, I think you've seen some of those before. There's some new legislation that's come down the pike, especially in literacy, and some of those legislative mandates then become ours without any funding. So we have seen some of that, and that's in this budget as well. So with the town revenues, and Ken, I'll ask you to speak to this, but really, I call it a 2/3, 1/3 kind of problem that adds up to 3/3. So about 1/3 of the money that comes into the town to pay for education comes from different grants and other sources of revenue. The rest, of course, are paid by us as taxpayers. So I'll have Ken just go over those different excess cost sharing.
We get from the state education cost sharing grant. It's been at the $25 million number for the past years. In addition, we get other funds from the state, including magnet transportation, as well as L10. Federal impact aid, that's about $4 million. These are funds that we receive from the Department of Education that are on federally impacted land or and special ed exit cost is a grant that we get from the state that funds those students that have high special. And in total, this is about 30,700,000.
And I have to say, I really commend my staff who's worked so hard getting the impact aid forms and the free and reduced lunch forms in. We haven't had to account for these things in the past couple of years with COVID, and there was a bipartisan bill that was passed so that we didn't have to collect the numbers, and now we're really working so hard to make sure we think we've got an answer to all those that are in the military. And so we're, and almost many of them have already filled in the forms, but there's other folks that might not realize that if they work in UP or on submarines, that they also can contribute. So our goal is really to get as many of those impact aid forms, because it makes a big difference. Not only this 4 million, but also we get supplemental funds that come to the school district that have afforded our one-to-one technology. And that comes to the tune of about 450,000 each year. So if we're below the 19% mark, we might not get those particular. So it's really important for us. And we can go by the budget categories and different tenants opposed to some of these grants. There's a 3C categorical, which are funds that come to us through the state or federal government that we receive. We still have a lot of economic expense, but they do a kind of guaranteed, not always at the same rate, but there's pretty much guaranteed. Competitive, which we all go after. So we've had our $6 million Department of Defense grant in world language recently that we've received, and we appreciate the council and the supported us in it. And then there's the coronavirus grant. And so we received funding for that too. Take care of some of the many needs that we have. And then the history of the GPS budget, we really went back to 2016, 17, wanted a couple of years before pandemic, during pandemic, and then into this year. And you can see that when you do an average of the percent increase, decrease, we come into about 0.5% for those years. And then when we flip the page, looking at our per pupil spending from the same dates before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, you can see that we're below the state average, which I can call that being very efficient and good stewards. But we are getting kind of increasingly in the negative from the Connecticut average, so. And then if we flip over, we like to look at, well, so how are we doing compared to other districts? How are we doing compared to our local districts, our neighbors in southeastern Connecticut? And you can see that we're really holding a very efficient status when you compare from Old Saybrook to Ledyard. We just have a couple other districts that are below us in per pupil spending. And then what is the local average and what is the Connecticut average? And then keeping in mind, we're in the GDER district reference group. And again, we are, at the lower end of per pupil spending. When you look at some of the bigger districts like Bloomfield, Winchester comes in next, Hampton, all the way to Naugatuck. And then looking at the DERG average, we're below the DERG average, and of course. And then we just went through the health insurance reserve and the OPEB and the CIP, which Kim had mentioned in the beginning. We tried to put it all on one page, but we had a septic issue that occurred recently that we have to take care of, and we've got it resolved for now, but we have more work to do on it. So that was added on the second page. So the first page, as you see, are, we've heard over and over again about the Fitch High School athletic facilities. We had proposed in a CIP to have a plan done. It wasn't getting done, but we were able to take some of our funds from, I think it was RSS, to actually do the field house study. And then, with that, we were able to find out, well, I guess this one is really about Crowning. So this is specific, and then the next one is the field. So we've talked back and forth about each crown the field for drainage reasons. But there is that committee that the council has on looking at all the fields and determining what really needs to be done. So we've really put that on hold for several years. I don't know how far this goes back, Sam, but so 5 years maybe. And then if the Fitch High School field house that we did the study on, find out, so what is it really going to cost us? And so we had a team of educators, including those at the high school and the athletic director, take a look at several of the proposals, and I think it was done by SLAM, was the architect from the middle school, and it came in at 15 million. 15 million. Only 15 million. So like Kim said, that's not necessarily something just to keep in mind. That's what.
Okay, for clarification, that Board of Ed we put that in for a CIP last year to have a study done about that, and but we went ahead through our funds to do that, and that's the estimate that we just recently got it. We just recently.
Northeast Academy, Sam, you can speak to that. I know there were some issues with air quality, and of course, Northeast Academy is built on an area that's kind of very close to Lebanon. But because of the way that he's worked out the technologies in the school building, we really resolved this issue. But there is equipment on the roof that will have to be replaced eventually down the road. So, if you want to speak to that.
Okay. Yeah, so you may all remember, or if you're new, at the Northeast Academy, we had pretty concerning humidity concerns in that building. After we had engineering firm Fuss and O'Neill look at things, determined that some of that equipment would need to be replaced over time. That's why you see those written out in years into the future. But since that time, we have instituted active dehumidification and have actually mitigated the problems. Under control presently does cost us because we are running heat at the same time as running air conditioning. That's the way that we dry the air out that's coming back. It does cost us more in oil. We have to continue to keep an eye on that as to when efficient to go forward with the placement of those units. Presently, we've taken care of the problem.
We also wanted to have a plan on HVAC, so we've been able to take care of quite a bit of HVAC kind of emergency repairs that we need to take care of at good time. With our RBS available in our, which is the ARPA version for education, where every child succeeds act comes into play. So we were able to do that study on HVAC, and it doesn't look like we have anything on the CIP. Can you explain that? Or we know that work needs to be done, but I know that you have put in a grant. So Sam has worked with Shannon on a grant for HVAC. And so we're hoping to hear soon. That's why there's no dollar amounts, but we're hoping to get.
Yeah, the state put out a grant a couple of months ago, and we submitted our application to that. It was supposed to be, we were supposed to be notified before the end of January. I was told the other day that they're expecting to have them done by the end of February now, and report back to us whether we. Apparently, they were also told that at the state grant office that so many applications for the HVAC grants. Almost all other grant work. Almost every district.
We hope we'll be competitive. Keep your fingers crossed. And then the Fitch Culinary Arts, this was a third plan that we went ahead and took it on ourselves. Culinary Arts is probably one of the most popular courses at the high school. And if you walked in there, it's on the vintage side of Fitch. It was part of a plan, two-part plan that was supposed to be taken care of years ago before my time. And so it really looks like kind of grandma's goldenrod kitchen was really done as a home ec. And we really are in a place where we're in a wonderful community that has an amazing restaurant and culinary career pathway. So we really want kids to be able to have that experience in more of a restaurant kind of style room. So we also wanted to be able to house more than, I think we can only get 6 students on each side. So, between making that course a half year course, so kids can take that opportunity, and having it have a level 1 and a level 2 experience. We're hoping to get more students in there. We're hoping to make it a high quality facility. And in the planning, their estimation would be the cost of structure, the inside. We've also gotten grants through the Perkins grant with regard to getting new ovens in. So we've done as much as we possibly do to upgrade the systems, but this would really help us in that and the scheduling to really see that many of our students could see that as a career pathway and to be able to experience that while they're at high school. So that is really I would say that is really an important priority. And then of course you see the cameras and the security. And there again, there is another grant coming our way, but we wanted to put it on there because I do have the especially after this Homeland Security audit that I want this taken care of. And then the bleachers, if you've been in the bleachers, you can talk about the precision that you had those.
Yeah, the bleachers were obviously built, and they are out of present at this time. And while I was in a different district, I built the contractors that we were prepared to get the estimate bleachers for. This is an estimate straight from the contractor, and it includes new bleachers that would be code to take handicap access, all of those press box. If you've been on those bleachers, you know that they don't have backward, prevent somebody probably likely to file from. That's one of the things that pieces in order to go along.
And it would be for both the, pitch fan
Only-
side and
only
then.
if-
We figured, you know, it was really our responsibility to find out, to do these studies, to find out what is, you know, what can be done and what would be the harm, so that at least we knew what we were doing. We can share it out with you. And then, last page, it was an add-on. Was the septic issue that you already started taking care of, but it needs more work to be completed.
Yeah. Timing, I don't remember when it started that long. He just started from the tunnels. On the line, so we had to have command closer, feed, and snake those cameras down those lines in section down the other chimney. They are original sewer lines, that portion. The photographs indicate that some of the lines are plugged, scaled, very little go through. That's what developed, that's what caused the leak that we had, was that it was blocked up so bad that another section of the pipe out. Some of the pipe is actually rotted and not exist. So that sort of trench now under the slab.
So that's actually our number. You have to.
On the number two.
Thank you. So that was my next question was, under CIPs, what are your priorities? Grade and what? I really feel like the security would be the second, but I'm hopeful that I am going to, you know, persevere with this grant. And, you know, I have to find out a little bit more about when that will be coming through and a little bit more about the grant itself. I feel the culinary, we've done the study and really got a lot of the equipment. You know, that structure situated so that we can make it more purposeful for the students, more usable, and get that in good working order. That's your top three. But the board chair might have another idea. This is your budget. Yeah, this is my budget. Yes, that's part of that will be coming back. I have. Read more emergency. And then, I will say on, the average cost per student. I mean, on third.
Yeah.
Like we have people that are doing, paying less than us, per student, but, because of the average of what's in our surrounding communities. Sort of sad, I mean, all the, very efficient, and I sort of think it's sad in that our funding more standard. Which, nice,
You can see that Old Saybrook is quite the outlier, so anytime you're averaging, you have to keep that in mind.
right, but it would be nice to come up and, be near, I think, other surrounding communities have. As well as, when I look at your increased request this year, you're saying you would like the superintendent's request is a 4.98%. And today, before I came here, I did look, find what the surrounding superintendents have requested comparison. What I found was somewhere between 3 and 8% for others. And I started requesting at this time, so I think we're moving forward. The average about what's going on.
Sign is a time thing.
It is, I think the economy.
But it's not that we're done. This is just what is out there, what I know to be true, and, we're just doing a really thorough job.
Right, and that's why I say that this is your budget and what you brought forward. And I look forward to seeing where that does with the budget. And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. You know the mic.
Thank you for the presentation. I guess my view is this, I'm a firm believer in supporting education. And I can understand the district's, numbers. But it's not what the number is, it's where the towns choose to allocate those funds. So for example, if I take $100, what I choose to spend on that versus what another person chooses to spend may be different. We can increase all we want, which I'm all a firm believer in making sure students are properly funded. What I worry about is where the district, because as a council member, I'm only voting on the number. Where you guys choose to move those numbers within the district for your choice. So as a counselor, to be clear, I vote on the number that's either raised up or down. But what you choose to do with it, it's not line by line. So my concerns and where I stand as a counselor in the community that I represent, people I've spoken to, and also as a parent of two students that were in this district, underwhelmingly, I see athletic sports not being funded in comparison to our community. Again, I can support a raise, but where's the money to go? I also see an underfunding in sports and activities that enrichment programs that support every student, meaning every student gets to play, no one sits on the bench. Examples: marching band, fencing, track, not try out, everyone gets to play. When we show up at our counterpart schools of like-minded with some that are in lower income areas, we do not perform at the same level. I constantly have to call the school and ask, we barely had a coach last year. We hired an athletic director full-time. And my son barely had a competent coach that could return because the other gentleman who was wonderful wanted to retire. I said, did we seek anyone? It was down to the wire. A teacher stepped up that had no fencing experience in one day. But how is it that East Lyme can show up with 4 coaches paid in London? So again, I'm a firm believer in supporting the budget, but I firmly believe that the numbers that we give is where you move them. As far as the athletic fields, been asking this forever. A committee was formed of volunteers because the Board of Ed had not established a plan for athletic fields. A 98 graduate Fitch, the fields look the same as when I left. It's not rocket science. The Board of Ed needs to establish with a fields committee on their own, not a bunch of volunteers that came forward because nobody was doing it. I encourage this board to look at ways of establishing a field and track it yourself and use it and then submit and move. I am concerned, and people have addressed the inequality in the fields, the field house. I think we need one. I also think bleachers are way outdated. They're not ADA compliant, is the proper word. When I go to other schools for marching band traveling around the state, ADA compliance, we can fix it, but it's still a travel down. So let's restructure it. It's not just fixing it, it's not having a plan that sometimes Groton lacks on. My opinion, I think it's sold. We can fix those bleachers, but they still have to come from way up top. Other schools mapped it out. When it comes to the athletic field, we can do these little patchworks. Look at our high school, pipes are breaking. I was not part of local government when that idea to take a brand new building and put it on a sinking building. Why? I don't know. Bad plan. A lot of repairs needed. So here we are again, putting band-aids on things. I think until you have a plan of what your vision is, or a master plan, actually, to fix little random things without a master plan is going to cause us a problem and be in the position we're in. We have potholes and holes in our parking lots at school. The front doesn't look as welcoming and as decorated as other in comparison. When you go around the old gym, the building's falling apart. The kids were coming out of fencing, looking for water machines. There's a fountain right outside the door, right when you walk in. Why do students not have access to fresh, clean, purified drinking water with a pump right there? In all the other schools, they have it right there. There's one way down, but students that are not in the building are not out there. So I just think it's great, and as a person in sports education, I'll probably vote in favor. But again, I encourage this board and these members to seek ways to fund it. You speak about, the money's in having the quality staff. I can speak firsthand that I know that there's a lack of math tutors in that building. Kids that have 504s and IEPs that are performing at higher levels, they have nobody available. When you tell me that this number is representing staff and quality, I don't deny it. I have some great friends that work up there. But what I don't see is what percent of this budget, this is my question, what percent of this budget is going directly to enhance and enrich our achievement gap that make us an alliance district, that dropped us during COVID? How are you hitting the minority community? How are you achieving, making sure kids are college or career ready? For example, we were targeted as an alliance district for our graduation and our absentee rates. Why are we funding a half-day career counselor? We have all these staff, you said. I don't see it in here. Okay. I think she's wonderful. I think she's one person, half day, in a building with almost 1,000 students, 4 grades. We cannot fund a half-day career counselor and say that we are working towards enrichment to make sure they're college ready. Everything I go to, I find people complaining that they don't feel that the accessibility is there. So I just, again, I'm torn where to go. Voting it down doesn't fix these problems. What fixes these problems is where this body chooses to move the money within the district. So I'm asking to the superintendent, what percent of this budget staffing is going towards closing achievement gaps and helping kids that are not making grade level?
There is an enormous amount, and also we had additional funds through ARPA that have probably tripled the number of tutors that we have in an operation.
The high school doesn't have any. My son is a bachelor currently, they don't have anybody.
Well, I will check on that.
Okay. They told me that's the fact that go to Falcon Academy. It's not, should not be in the back of Falcon Academy providing support. Some kids are embarrassed, seek help from other students. We could be funding. The other thing we don't have, SAT prep in the evenings. Nothing. No enrichment. Where are those programs? We just don't meet the needs. So I think we fail, in my opinion, in areas. There's a lot of things that are great, wonderful, great people. But we can only do so much if the money's not moving it away. Fencing. We raised $5,000 for parents, with my son raising $1,000. They need uniforms. Oh, we only get a smaller amount, and numbers are all vague, and we don't have enough strips, and that's an inclusive sport. It should be funded at 100%. The ROTC program, I've been asking for 5 years, 6 years. Currently, I have a son that graduated in 2021. He's actively in the Navy. I have another son that's looking at becoming an officer in the Navy in ROTC. I talked to the school, nothing has started yet. I asked about the uniforms. They don't have proper funding. I guess they got earmarked for 50,000. Probably not enough to cover the uniforms. There's a lot of things I'm hearing from the schools that I'm hearing here. When I call the school, nothing's really started. It's supposed to start next year, maybe. So again, I'm gonna say how I feel. That's what I represented to do. That's the people who contact me. Our conditions of our schools need improvement. Medically, enrichment, as well as definitely in the reading and math and supports. We have to fund that. Coming out of COVID, there's a lot of kids that are not making grade level and have struggled, and they need the supports in place. Free lunch. Is anyone going to go to the cave thing where they're trying to work to advocate for free lunch? I was told today, and then there's some posts somewhere too, it's all over the forum. Why ask my kids and other kids? Hey, is it true people are being called out for being negative? Because you know what, my account is negative. I'll say right now, my account is $60 negative, but it's not the rhythm of paying on it because it's free for a year. We need free lunch in this district for all. It's okay if we have Title I schools here and there, but they get to high school, they don't become not Title I, those schools funnel into that. Where in this budget can we work towards making sure all of our children have the right to eat? It doesn't matter how qualified the teachers or this. If the kids are not coming fed as a district, we fail. I speak for a community. I'm passionate about it. I'm not going to apologize for my passion. We need to find a way this budget gets brought to make sure, even if the state doesn't do it, that we can allocate funds to feed our students. That's what I'm hearing from the parents that are reaching me. Is they need food. So I encourage this body to go back and look at this budget and find a way to make sure our children are fed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a little hard to hear, admittedly, but nonetheless, I just want to thank everyone for coming together. I know we all have very busy schedules and don't all meet on the same day. So great to see that, see the leadership here, and I want to thank Superintendent Austin for her continued service to our community, especially at a very uncertain times. You know, it's not easy to run a district after the pandemic, and a lot of unique challenges, as have been mentioned, but very happy to see that this year, you know, you've proposed a budget that I think, you know, certainly are living within your means, still continuing to invest in the areas that ensure our students receive incredible instruction from our amazing teachers. And as you've highlighted, a series of capital projects that in many ways we've maybe kicked over the years, but so important we begin to fund, as you've highlighted, some of the school security grants, or some of the school security projects that you've outlined. I did share with you via email, Superintendent Austin, a bond allocation that will be made available. The governor announced today $15 million available for school construction. I'm sorry, for school safety upgrades in our schools throughout the state. So hopefully we can coordinate and work together on ensuring that Groton does ask for those funds. It is a pretty sizable fund at this time. So I do believe Groton's well positioned, and look forward to working with you on that front. But I do want to change gears just as far as other CIPs that may be coming down the road. As you've also highlighted, you know, in Groton, we are so fortunate to have great federal leadership as well. You know, ensuring that we continue to receive robust federal impact aid funding. And, you know, while that is so important, there are other opportunities that, you know, as Groton has done in the past, you know, punching above our weight with some of those DODEA grants. But as we've seen with ARPA, unprecedented funding that likely won't happen for some time, allocating dollars to ensure that our kids have, you know, safe and healthy programs in the summer. And really excited our council worked in you know, the well past midnight, coming together, passing, you know, really good funding for really great programs that will benefit our students and children. So I guess two-pronged question. First question regarding ARPA. What steps is the school district taking to ensure that parents will be informed of some of these summer programs that will be available? And are there, have we identified ways we can coordinate kind of that flow of information to ensure that the students who need those, you know, can take, students that can take advantage of some of these programs get the chance to?
We've had great success even before the pandemic, but because of these multi-million-dollar DODEA, we've had literacy camps, math camps, writing camps, STEM camps, and sometimes all three happening at once. And with the ARPESR funds, we've been able to even increase enrollment. So our parents really know about it. It's free of charge, and it includes busing and meals, and we have a very robust program. Our teachers love teaching in these programs, and they're identified enrichment, but they definitely are teaching reading, writing, math, and robotics. So kids love it, the teachers love it, and that will continue. We started that at the elementary level, and Principal Bass has continued it and does a 4 to 5 week program at the middle school. That's really a very popular program in STEAM, as you know. They are an international baccalaureate NYP school, the middle school, and because of the magnet school assistant federal program of close to $5 million, when they were Cutler and Westside, they were humanities, STEM, and came together as a team. And so the programs that the kids take during the day have a lot of enrichment opportunities, all of that. But then the summer program has been very popular. And I have to say that beyond the enrichment programs and the high school program that we have with summer school and in the special education program, we have been able to utilize our highly skilled teachers and literacy consultant specialists. And they and the tutors work with students that have been identified through our SRBI process as needing more reading. So that is another area that we work on, and families are able to, and we actually offer it in person and on Zoom, so that if that's more accessible for families, that happens. Also with our Treehouse program in the summer, they do a lot of that enrichment as well. And I'd love to see our robotics team have their camp again, and so we're looking at all of those. And we have a communication coordinator in the district, and between Facebook and School Messenger, moving to possibly a better vehicle for communications next year. We do get the word out to our families, and it shows we do get a good turnout across the district for all those programs.
Thank you, Superintendent. And I know you tuned in for part of our ARPA discussions a few weeks ago. And just for, through our deliberation, it was very clear that counselors, when we were, voting on, for example, swim, a couple weeks of swim camp, for example, that we are very intentional about ensuring that the students, some of the most vulnerable population we have in our community, identifying families that are, have our high needs, that are in, facing financial distress or strain, that they would be identified to attend these camps, and so summer camps and programs. So Manager Burt, did you send over that list yet to Superintendent Austin?
Not yet. I can do that tomorrow.
Awesome. Yes, that way we can start those that flow of conversation with the parents and get them engaged, so they can take advantage and sign up early. That way they can plan their summers. And but nonetheless, two other things. What I was trying to get to was that we have an enormous opportunity with the Inflation Reduction Act. A few years ago, before the pandemic, I know both Mayor Patrice Granatowski and our TM moderator, Sim Eben, were very vocal about the importance of decarbonizing our town facilities, in particular our new schools, installing solar, and really making a concerted effort to to decarbonize our school facilities. So through the Inflation Reduction Act, there's going to be millions of dollars available for a lot of these upgrades, to the extent that it can be largely subsidized by the federal government. So I do think it'd behoove this body, members of RTM, council, town staff, Board of Education staff, Board of Education, and really come together and dig into the opportunities that may become available through the Inflation Reduction Act to also defray the cost that would be directly imposed by taxpayers. So that's really one ask I would have of this whole group, this very committed group of volunteers and our Board of Education team. And then lastly, just as far as the kind of reliance of this budget on expectations at the state level, if you can kind of speak to that, Superintendent Austin. I know we've talked extensively offline about ECS formula and so many other things, but kind of what our baseline is, what we're basing our these numbers off of as far as kind of the state level goes.
Well, we do have a board legislative breakfast at Montville High Friday, and I think we've got many attending. I hope you will attend as well. But the House Bill 5003, which will actually be a reduction for Groton of approximately $8 million, which are the funds that our own students who go inter-district magnets that learn in London, Ledyard, Boad. So we're watching that very carefully. They've asked for testimony from superintendents. We'll probably be talking about that in the morning. So I reached out to you and to Heather and to Chris to find out more about that so that I can really be very particular about telling Groton supporting it. Also, with this legislation saying we are a nation district, people need to know about what that's all about and long get could there be potential to write a bill at our state level to have a match that could contribute back to Groton. But I think the more that Hartford knows about Groton, I think, and we tell our story, the better it's going to get, the more support from my.
Excellent. And then just lastly on that point regarding the Inflation Reduction Act, if a lot of these credits, a lot of these grant opportunities, projects have to shovel has to hit the ground in 2025, and so I just don't want to leave any money on the table as far as what the town can do as far as infrastructure improvements, things that inevitably we'll have to do as a community, no matter what. Based off of how things are going in our world. So just want to put that out there and hope we can continue those discussions, and want to thank everyone. I know it's getting late, but thank everyone for taking the time to be here tonight.
Right.
Did you call on me? Mr. Mayor? Was that a yes? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I know the goal was to try to close this out at 8:30, so I'll make my comments brief and from more of a high level. I have more questions concerning how we can lower this. And the reason I'm saying this is because when I do my calculations, I don't look at just an increase from year over year, the total budget. I look at what I call taxpayer support. And if you look at the total budget from 79.2 to 83.1 or so, it's 3.9 million increase. But my concern is that the general fund increase is pretty much bearing the entire increase. And the reason being is that the non-general funds that are being received by the town isn't really increasing. It went from 30.74 to 30.71. So it's actually a decrease. So as a result of that total $3.9 million is really impacting the taxpayer support, not by the 4.98%, but by 8.2%. So the concern is that although we say it's a 5% increase or 4.98, the real increase to the taxpayers and how it's going to affect the mill rate and the tax rate is really 8.2%. So I first want to make that point. And with that being said, I'd like to investigate some areas that we can maybe reduce. And I think two of the areas I need to get a better understanding of how it's working is the health insurance and the OPEB. And I guess my high level question before we get into details later on during the budget process is that I understand the 25% reserve, but is that 2 million additional health insurance reserve above the corridor? Is that something that's been done consistently in the past few years? And is that really necessary? Or is it more that you're worried about that money dropping to the general fund, so you want to fund the health insurance? Because I look at that as a pretty sizable, reserve, $4.3 million on, what is $9 million of claims for the year. So that's kind of my first question. My second question will be more in terms of OPEB, in that is the $1 million OPEB reserve. I kind of need to get some details, and maybe not tonight's the answer, but I want to get some details too. Are we funding the ADAC 100%? And then this is above and beyond that, or just some information on that? Because these are, and then with that being said, what's the 24 budget for health insurance? And is any of this reserves being used? And with the OPEB, could any of that money be used to offset the budget increase as well? So two main questions on health insurance and OPEBs. And then my other question that I'd like some detail on in the future is more regarding employees. How many new employees are being added to the budget? Were there any eliminations of employees and so forth? So I'll stop there. And if there's anyone that can provide me some high level understanding at this point, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Is that
I
something?
think that's something we'll have to get back to you on. You had many questions. I really need to listen back. It's hard to hear. I don't know, it's hard to hear, I think, both ways on the screen and here. But I will capture that and I even send you an email to make sure that we got. If you wanted to even list them out and send me an email, then Ken and I can take a look and work on that to get you the accurate answers.
Certainly. I
We will
would be-
make sure that it goes to all the town councilors
And we'll make sure it goes to all the town councilors and RTM.
and our team, sorry.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Chair Whitney, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. It's actually back sort of the athletics budget and then along with that, the CIPs. For the athletics budget, I was just kind of looking through the detail of how much goes to each high school sport. And I was expecting to see a disparity between the total going to predominantly male sports and female sports because football is an expensive sport, equipment heavy. And indeed there is that. But I also was surprised to see that boys and girls soccer team, the girls soccer team in the budget is $1,000 less. It's the same thing for boys and girls lacrosse, baseball, softball. And it wasn't that way, I believe, in last year's budget. So I think that's a minor thing in terms of dollars to fix, but it's a major thing in statement of commitment and equity, gender equity in sports. So that's one thing. As the RTM Education Committee, we'll never be able to drill down that low. But while you're working as a Board of Ed, I'd recommend kind of taking a look at that. Where we do come in, RTM Education, of course, is the CIPs in a big way. And I think it's a great idea, of course, to not only make the case that these facilities are in need of updating, major overhauls. I think people will buy into that part, but also make a good case, a strong case, that it's an expensive investment and it's going to be equitably for both boys and girls athletes and band and everything else. Because I mean, my perception, rightly or wrongly, is that field is mostly for football games, and of course the marching band's there as well. I know it's used for other things, but I think that making the case as best you can for the gender equity of like investments in the field house. I'm sure it's going to be ADA coming up to those standards, but also I know there was certainly it was built at a time when it was only for boys, and there's been changes for that. But really, you've got to in my view, make that strong case because it is a big investment for the town, and it's every bit as important for us to invest in our girls as much as we do in our boys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if I call on members who are here in the audience?
Yeah, I think that'd be much easier. And then I'll also note that Representative Frickman is here online, and he may, I don't see if he has a question, but after you call on people in the audience, maybe we'll ask him too.
Thank you, Representative Chase.
No, so when you were saying who you were going to send an email to. Okay, absolutely. It will go to this group. The groups.
Do you have any questions? Yeah. Okay, Representative Gustafson.
Thank you. In regards to the free lunch program, there's currently 3 schools in the district that don't have that. Is that correct?
That's right.
Do we have an idea what it costs to fund that? Like, what would that additional funding be?
So the board did take a look at that, and what the decision was that any child who had free lunch or reduced lunch, the reduced would be taken care of by the board. So it's only the students who can afford to pay for their lunch that are paying. So, but it does require that they fill in the forms. So there could be families out there that haven't filled in the forms and are paying. But it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was a very large sum to take on this year. I do know that it's going through Hartford right now to pay for lunches completely. And I'm very hopeful we'll find out more on Friday at the legislative breakfast to see where that is. Because it does make a difference that our kids have breakfast and lunch every day.
And that's for the whole district. Hopefully you'll find out on Friday. Is
Yeah,
it?
and then as we've collected these, we've also had the intention to be able to resubmit for these CEPs, which make it eligible for an entire school, and you can even link some schools together. So our goal is through this process to go back and see if we can't get the other three on board. So doing it in this way, that would be more sustainable than just using ARP ESSER funds that into the future, because I think these CEP schools, the four of them, Thames River, Catherine Kolnowski, Mystic River, and Groton Middle School, they go for, what is it, a 3 or a 5 year period? 4-year period, right in between. So we really do want to do this as a whole district, and, you know, we're working on it. So hopefully between what the state has in mind and collecting all this data that we've collected, we'll be able to go back and see it through.
Thank you. Okay. One other thing, as far as the culinary area that needs, that project, would it be feasible to have like a tour of members of our team or town council? They want
I
to go
would love to
lay
take
eyes
that.
on that? 'Cause
Yes,
I would like to
let's
see
do
that.
it.
Okay.
It's the whole vintage wing, and that's where our career program is. And we, through a Congressman Courtney grant, we do have a full-time career counselor as well for the next, I think, it's a year and a half we have. And she's been able to do some tremendous work and really get these career programs moving along. So it is really a major goal of this board to get that moving. Thank you for asking. We'll make a date.
I'd like to address a couple CIP questions. When you talked about a grant possibility, would that be both for FNG for the district safety?
It's for the
and
whole package
Okay.
deal. I will put it in
Fantastic.
for all those needs and the panic buttons.
Perfect. And when we talk about the sewer lines, is that something that can wait for the next budget, or is that emergency work that needs to be done
Now.
sooner rather than later?
Are you meaning next year?
Correct.
No.
No, it has to happen.
Now,
It's been patched, but some of those lines are so clogged, they need to be done now.
so should we assume this is going to be coming through ASAP? Rather than it being in the budget, is this going to be coming through now, immediately? The sewer line.
So
Are you planning to hold this sewer line CIP for the budget, or is this going to be emergency work immediately?
No, I can wait till, we would do it during the summer when the kids aren't in the
Okay.
building.
Thank you. That was my question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Council Bordelon?
I just have a question. One of the things that people reached out to me and, well, I guess my question is, this is the superintendent's budget. And with no disrespect, when the town manager gives us our budget, we as a council then might say, what can we do with and what can we not do with? And we might move that number. It might be the same percent increase. But I encourage this board to find a way to fund the remaining students that are not being funded and ask those questions to see what else you can do without in this budget to make free lunch for all. A lot of people who don't qualify and the ones that are hardest hit are the people who are in the lower middle class who make enough to not qualify for anything. But then they get nothing. And so some people were offended. I'll tell you this in the community. Single moms that had 2 and 3 kids that made just enough not to qualify for free or reduced. The district's giving free, reduced is getting it free, and everyone else is having to pay full price. So if you're gonna give free is free and reduced is at a reduced, couldn't you at least, if you couldn't fully fund it, maybe say, we'll give them a reduced rate? That would be the bridge or the middle. You know, you can't help a class, but not help everyone. It goes back to the equality in the field. So I just encourage, if we cannot fund free lunch for all, maybe there's a way that we could bridge that gap to maybe make full pay instead of the high school $3.25, and then there's breakfast. And it's almost $5, $6 a day. Some people can't afford that with 3 kids. It's hard to bring a high school lunch to school with the locker situation and moving around. I know it's hard, but I just encourage, I know you guys go back, the superintendent gave you your budget. You as the board have a chance as the voted elected people to go back and relook at that. That's my ask. And with that, children are athletes, a lot of them are performing. And because of not the school's problem, but because of federal guidelines, these serving sizes are as they are. I have a son who's 6'2", and I was talking to other people who have other kids. You get one slice of pizza and some sides. If you're leaving right from school for football, a football game or basketball game, and you already are free or reduced, what are those kids eating for that 6 o'clock game that they're driving to Bridgeport for? I went to the Booster Club meeting recently, and there was a concern. I asked NFA, I was there for a fencing match, and a whole basketball team came 2 hours early. And I said, wow, what great kids, what are they doing? She said, they come first to eat. The school feeds them at practice. So we can rally around our athletes and say, wow, look at Joey who wrestled. But if you look overwhelmingly in a lot of districts, there's been kids that have passed out. They need food. And so the free and reduced kids, that's great. You're giving those free. Let's take it to the next level. We need to make sure the kids, before they go to sports, a lot of these teenagers, I don't know anyone that eats one slice of pizza for lunch, and they charge a full amount at $3.25 for the next round. They can't afford it. We have to have a way to have a bridge program to make sure after-school athletes can eat and perform at the levels that they can. That is my sincere ask. I just hope that we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative.
I just would appreciate not to be cut off in that way. Everyone else spoke as long as they wanted to, and I didn't thank them to get me off, but if there is a time limit, I appreciate it. I am here to advocate for. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have a
No.
representative present.
That's fine. I just asked for the same respect.
No,
is all.
no one cut you off.
Representative Frickman.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I just had a couple questions. One, I wasn't sure if we looked at different options for that field house rather than replacing the entire facility. Did we look at options to not have locker rooms out there and just send the kids to have locker rooms back in the building and just replace it with bathrooms? Was that even an option, or was it just, I want to replace the whole thing bigger and better?
No, the architect came back with two options. One was to completely knock down that building and build new, and the other option was to add on to that project. But I don't, they did not go back into the high school. Everything was conducted down at the field, meaning the concession stand and the field house, looking at.
But I mean, realistically though, we could have the kids use the building facility that already exists rather than replacing a field house. Cause I think we're kind of unique, right? In regarding having a field house down there with locker rooms and everything. Cause a lot of the high schools I've been at don't have those.
Teams do use the high school presently.
Okay. All right. So I was just curious if there were options looked at instead of replacing that at all and just having the kids use the locker rooms inside the main facility. Was that even considered, or?
Not as part of this study, but some teams do use the locker rooms presently at the high school. Not every sport goes down to the field house.
So that's what I'm saying. So if nobody used the field house, we wouldn't need to replace the field house at all if we just use the building. I guess I'm wondering if the superintendent had thought about that or people looked at that as an option.
They didn't look at that, but I suspect that there would not be enough room at the high school to, without adding on to make that, to service that many more athletes. There are quite a few lockers down there in the field house presently.
Okay, is it possible that can the superintendent look into that for future meetings? Because I'm wondering if that's a possible option for us instead of spending this kind of money for a field house.
We could look into it, but there's other outside buildings that really are not acceptable, that are
Correct.
with a lavatory space and then trying to, provide, hot dogs and popcorn and all of that. So it's that whole facility. I think someone said it, that making a plan for this, like, what is that plan going to look like? So that we can be proud to walk out on that pitch field.
I also think, if I could just interject for 1 second, I also think that, and Rachel, help me out on this, that the Fitch fields, the back end of Fitch, that's what I learned, is that stuff is part of the field committee's sort of plan. So we are just gathering information we just kind of gathered information for the field committee.
Right, okay.
Yes, that is true as well, and they're looking at different options as well. I think the question that was just asked about using the indoor facilities is probably athletic director kind of type of question, and I think they have proposed this to him, and there has been a response that I think the Athletic Fields Task Force has received, and that was in the negative of what the field house does and how it's utilized, and I think it's not really conducive to use the school for that field house, and that's why I have it. So.
Okay. I follow up two more questions. Well, really one more question. So I noticed, over the last year, we consolidated the bus routes and in the hopes of saving money. Yet we have a 10% increase in busing and transportation. And over the last few years, of course, we've consolidated all the schools, yet we have a 25% increase in supplies. And I know inflation regarding the rate of inflation and the price of stuff. However, the quantity should be less at this point based on what we paid for in the past. And I guess I'm wondering about that 10% increase on busing, especially knowing that we just consolidated last year. And so I was hoping that maybe for future, we could have some answers on those two.
We can look into that, but we still have the same amount of students. So, we're still dealing with a very large middle school, a very large high school. And yes, the routes were consolidated, not for the purpose necessarily of funding, but for time and efficiency in routes so that kids weren't on the bus for too long.
That shouldn't save us money though, right?
It did not save us money. No.
Wait, consolidating the
We have
buses.
the same amount of buses and the same amount of students.
So wait a minute. Well, we consolidated routes with less bus routes and it costs us 10% more.
There was a 21% increase in a bus bid last year. That's to this year. That's what you're seeing, $1 million increase in the bus.
Okay. I guess I'm really hopefully there's more of an answer to that, because I guess I'm really confused how we consolidated with multiple kids, bus routes with high school and middle school, and yet we're still paying more money. That one confuses me. And then the consolidation of supplies, I know we have just the same amount of kids and actually maybe more kids as we go, but with less schools, there should be some less supplies. No?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you still have the basic supplies and per pupil spending. So you can look at your per pupil spending, and we're getting further and further away from the state average in the negative. So that's called efficiency when you look at the whole package deal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a
Representative.
question real quick.
We have other counselors and representatives.
I know, may I ask a clarifying question, just in response to that, just because it goes with that?
Other representatives will have the floor.
It's a quick
Moderator Russ.
clarifying question. Okay.
Moderator Russ.
Representative Chase.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm not sure if you can answer this because tonight is the first time I've heard of the Inflation Reduction Act. So, so if I have questions about it, so what can it be used on, and can it be used on your CIPs? And that would be fabulous if it would.
I'm
And
going
are
to
you
find
going
out
to
Friday
apply?
morning at that legislative breakfast.
That'd be
Yes,
great.
absolutely.
Find out what the uses are, how much you
Yep.
can apply for.
Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that's everyone.
Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple questions on the grants review revenue. Is that, which is 6.5 million, is that included in the? Is that included in this 30 million? Is that where that money goes? Is it separate above?
It's separate above.
So so out of the 80. What is your money? So is it included in the 83 million?
No.
So
it's beyond.
it's really 89 million.
Right.
Is what you're really bringing in. So this is a separate and above
Right.
money that comes from those grants.
And they're very specific. The categorical give you very finite ways that you can spend that money and for what reasons. A lot have to do with closing the gap, especially with the title funds. So those are made specifically. Our Alliance grant in the past have also done that. And then the competitive grants, we write these grants for specific reasons, and they're usually for education and professional learning and things that we can sustain over time after the grants are done. So those are really created to, you know, to go along with our teaching and learning plan and to really
So
supplement,
So I guess,
not
so,
supplant, supplement.
so your
Thou shalt
real,
not supplant.
your real budget is really almost 90 million when you add all the money to it. Can you just talk a little bit about on the coronavirus grants, it's $3 million. How much longer are those grants going to go on for?
That one goes through 2024. And like I said, we really tried to make sure they were for education and acceleration, those tutors that we supply in the summertime to really have recovery from the coronavirus.
So you have one more year on that.
One more full year.
Is
Yeah.
that, when that money runs out, is that going to affect your budget in the school system? That you're going to lose $3
We've
million?
already got a plan for how we're not gonna have a cliff, that we really utilize these and we've moved things around so that we've been able to support them in other ways too, especially when it comes to staffing. We have a couple staff members, but we have some ideas on how that's gonna, you know,
So
how we
you-
can continue that.
So you have a plan to absorb that
Yes.
money, so it could
Yeah.
stop and you're okay
That's
with
right.
it. And then if you go to the expenditures per pupil. So as we moved up from 17, 18, 19, 20, it sort of grew at I don't know, $100 a year or something rate that you grew. And then COVID came in there and sort of
Yeah.
threw the numbers out of whack. So the extra money that was from COVID was really money that was given to the school system to do things like PPEs and medical supplies. And it really wasn't directed to student education. It was more medical. Is that?
So these are the operating budget. We take the entire operating budget and we then divide it by the number of students to get your per pupil cost. So that didn't include those extra categorical grants and the extra ARP ESSER grants. Those were specifically around the operating budget,
Okay.
divided by the number of students to get that per pupil spending.
So the increases from those 2 years, which you sort of see as outliers, is sort of odd. What would that, just give me one thing that might have contributed to that? That's where was that money spent that made that go up so much?
I think we could get back to you on
Back
that.
to you, because I
Yeah,
want
I'm
to do
just-
a good job looking into that.
I'm just sort of looking, if you
Yeah.
took that money out of the system, sort of what's the natural growth that you
Right.
had every
get
year?
it.
I mean, it just sort of seems if you take those out and brought it to the normal number,
Mm-hmm.
your 17.9 would really be 17,000. So I'm just looking at what's a normal progression if you didn't have sort of COVID in the middle of it? And you maybe still have effects of COVID in there, which is why the number is sort of out of the range.
Well,
of all the other
especially when you
numbers.
look at the estimate for this current year, going back down.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going down, but it's not going down to where it would have been if you had sort of the normal growth. So that's why I'm just looking at that. So, yeah, if you just kind of
It's a
where
good
that.
question. I'm gonna look into it for you.
Your growth was normal, it's going along at a
Yeah,
certain rate and suddenly
yeah.
it spikes, which is understandable because of COVID, but it doesn't come back down and maybe
Right.
the curve is still, it's still on the curve. So that's just kind of an explanation. And then only other thing I'll say is, I was born in 1954, so I understand the age of the system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Council Bordelon.
Thank you. My clarified question was to, the gym area where the changing rooms are, locker rooms. Those have not been updated in how long?
I'd have to look back in the records, but been quite some.
Okay.
Since you were at Fitch High School,
Yeah, I
using
was-
that, Jim?
Yeah, so I'm concerned, I mean, if we were to make that the field house rate, it still has what they call, and I hate the word, this is what they use in the military as the showers, as my son called it. They still have the gang showers, which are the old spindle with no curtains, and everyone just kind of, I implore everyone to go into that locker room. Again, I graduated in 98, it looked like that when I arrived in 94, 95, and I heard so that whole wing is completely outdated, so there's a lot of work to be done. As far as the piping, have you reached out to the state to see if there's any funding for that? Because I feel like that's critical. And I just wonder how we can do more preventative maintenance so we don't get to the point where it's disintegrating in the ground 50 years later. Is there a plan in place budget wise that you guys did throughout the year? Because I'm sure that pipe was bad a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm just curious, because I've never seen this come up on a CIP, so that's far.
It just happened.
Right, but before, like, you know, in my house, I don't let my roof get to the point where the water's coming in. I know that someone comes out and says, in 10 years, you're gonna have to replace your roof.
Yeah,
So-
these sewer lines are under slabs where they're not accessible at all until they come through a tunnel. So that's how we discovered it. It was when it started leaking in the tunnel. Those lines are disintegrated under the slab areas where they are not accessible. But yes, I've talked to the state about potential grants, and we are continuing. We have a grant person here at the board, and we're looking into other areas, other places to find grants if they're available.
Okay. I think that was my only notes. Just also again, to reiterate with the sports, in reference to Mr. Whitney, I agree, the equality for male and female athletes need to be addressed. You know, overwhelmingly, a lot of things aren't budgeted at the same level. And I just really think that we should. I also encourage the board to consider looking at ways to provide feeder programs in the middle school to enhance the high school program, so we can be even more competitive. A lot of schools are bringing in 8th graders to marching band when we go to competitions.
We do.
They're also bringing
We do.
in,
We do.
they're also bringing in color guard. We don't have 8th grade marching band as of this past year. We had one color guard person, but I was told there was some pushback at the middle school level and not letting the band people come up. I don't know. But that was something I had brought up. Fencing, it'd be great to have a feeder program for fencing, wrestling. This is what other districts do as a way of enhancing the high school programs, because we're seeing a decrease in numbers. So any way that we can start funding in this budget, ways to have a color guard, a marching band program, and those programs are only going to enhance the quality at the high school level. And that's where I think we kind of fall short. A lot of the kids get up there, never heard of fencing, and, you know, it's great they come on as freshmen, but we can do better. Let's, you know, offer that enrichment much earlier on. So those are things that I hope to see in years, or if not this budget, there's still time to kind of look back and look at ways that we can collaborate and do a little bit more. Thank you.
We are a campus now, so there are all these opportunities being right next door and
Right.
getting out at the same time.
Okay.
So
Right, that's what we were
Definitely
told
look
with
into that.
with the
Right.
bridge. So this would be a great way to
Right.
bridge those programs and start allowing for a collaborative campus of, you know, extension and enrichment programs. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion for adjournment for the Board of Education. All those in favor, can I take a motion, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Approved.
I'm just doing the board. We have to do all three. Is that on, Andrea?
Yes, motion to adjourn. I'll second that, Rita Volkman.
Right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Motion
to adjourn?
second.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Counselor Parker, seconded by Counselor Bordelon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions, carries unanimously. 6 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Counselor McBride has left us.
And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the RTM Education Committee.
Second.
All right. Oh, I guess I made the motion at second, and that's fine. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay well.